In the last episode of this series, we started to look at the omohyoid muscle. This funny muscle connects the hyoid bone to the shoulder blades. Today, we're going to look at the relationship between the arms and the neck and head. The shoulder girdle and the neck and head attach to the upper end of the torso. What's happening at the upper torso strongly affects these parts of the body. We've seen that most people tend to rotate their ribcage forward at the bottom and back at the top. That coincides with people also pulling their neck, head, shoulders, and arms backward in space. In order for us to move our mid-torso back and keep it there, we need some weight to go forward. That is why we want to extend the neck forward and bring the arms forward as well. The difference, however, is that we want to extend the head up while we want to extend the arms down. This will increase the distance between your shoulder and your jaw. This is another example of antagonistic movements. We should be aware that pulling the arms down will tend to cause us to pull the neck down too, unless we consciously prevent that from happening. And similarly, we can very easily lift our shoulders and arms when we're trying to extend our neck and head forward and up. We need to break these movements apart and pull in two directions to lengthen the muscles and the related fascia. However, it's very important to remember that we do not want to move the upper torso down. The upper torso, like the head and neck, needs to go up. Really, we would like the top end of the ribcage to raise through the shoulder girdle. Breaking apart these movements and coordinating them properly takes some time, but what will help you quite a bit is having visual feedback in the form of a video, a mirror, or someone observing you, so that you know what you're really moving up and what you're moving down. If you're somewhat new to this, and even if you aren't, if you use visual feedback, you will almost certainly see yourself at times doing the opposite of what you intended to do. You won't feel it, but you can know if you use visual feedback. Now let's think about this omohyoid muscle that connects the shoulder blades to the larynx and hyoid bone. If we want to lengthen this muscle, we absolutely need to get the shoulder blades away from the spine. If your shoulder blades come in towards the spine, you will be shortening this muscle. If you saw the series I put out on the arms, you may recall that pulling the shoulder or elbow back will also cause you to pull your shoulder blades in. To confirm this, all you have to do is put one hand on your opposite shoulder blade and compare what happens when you move your elbow and shoulder back and forward. This is further confirmation that we absolutely do not want to pull the shoulders back or in, as is commonly advised. Remember, the omohyoid muscle has a tendon in the middle of it. It goes tendon at the shoulder blade, to muscle, to another tendon near the base of the neck, to muscle, to a tendon connecting to the hyoid bone. This allows the force going through the muscle to change direction. Even though we are moving the shoulder blade forward, we will not pull the hyoid bone and larynx forward. Instead, lengthening the omohyoid muscle will pull the hyoid bone down to help us keep it well suspended and low as opposed to habitually raised. Now let's look at a set of directions we can use to apply what we've learned so far. To do that, we're first going to name this angle at the back of the jawbone the mandibular angle. You can feel how the bone turns with your hand, and that inflection point is what we will call the mandibular angle. We'll also define a point we'll call the top of the shoulder. This point will be on the acromion. To find it, trace along your collarbone, and just beyond the end of it, you'll feel the acromion, which is actually part of the shoulder blade. The directions will be to pull the top of the shoulder spot away from the mandibular angle, which will mean you're pulling it out and down. But remember, most people habitually pull their shoulders and arms back, so you may need to first make an adjustment to pull the tip of the elbow and upper arm spot forward, out, and down to bring the arm forward of the frontal plane. You should also move your top of the shoulder spot forward, out, and down. We can add to this idea of pulling the shoulders away from the mandibular angle with the direction to pull the mandibular angle away from the top of the shoulder spots. We must bear in mind that we want to keep the head forward and up throughout this adjustment. We also do not want to tip the chin so that it goes down or up. Use visual feedback to make sure you're not lifting or lowering your chin. We can also return to the procedure we looked at 2 episodes ago, which was to move our head forward and up while keeping our torso back. We can add to that we want to move the mandibular angle forward and up. We can also think about pulling the larynx back and down. We don't want the larynx to come forward with the face. We want to lengthen the muscles and fascia of the throat. Use visual feedback to make sure you're not pulling your upper sternum back and down when you intend to pull your larynx back and down. And as always, maintaining the lengthening of the back is more important than any other part of the procedure. In the next episode of this series, we're going to look at the tongue. We've already seen a little bit about how it moves during the swallowing process. If you aren't all that familiar with anatomy, diagrams of the tongue might surprise you, in that the tongue has a portion that is not really visible without dissection. The tongue is bigger than you might think. I'd like you to spend some time examining your tongue and playing with it a bit. Do you have habits with your tongue? Do those habits lean one way? Is it harder to move your tongue in one direction than the other? Have some fun examining this part of yourself, then join me next episode, and we'll start to manipulate our tongue.